This is your daily briefing. You're most welcome to it. North London derby. A number of us, I have to say, predicted it wasn't going to be pretty. We were right. If you're an Arsenal fan, congratulations. Your side won fair and square. Played some really entertaining football, it has to be said. Let's have a look at what we did. And this is less about what went wrong, but we're kind of looking at the more overarching picture here, okay? And I think some of you, many of you, are with the programme and are piecing it together. Don't mean to patronise, but I'm just saying that the bulk of the people doing what I do are putting out pretty duff, mundane stuff that doesn't require much kind of thought. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You know what the options are. They're all pretty bloody awful. So this is how we set up, and you'll note here, this is how the players were structured on the park, okay? So we're going beyond that, oh yeah, we played 4-4-2 or whatever. We got a 4-5-1, and there it is on your screens. And what strikes you immediately there, you look at the positioning, and Conte went for a notably deep setup, whereas Arteta could have parked two jumbo jets, and there we go, just for laughs, between his goalkeeper and his closest defender. And that gives you an indication of how things went. Looking at expected goal graphics just confirms the worst. Just take a moment to look at this, okay? I'm going to actually have to change the colour on these things because they come, you wouldn't believe, in navy and black to distinguish the things. So I'll make it clear which is which, but you'll be able to work it out. Despite the build-up, despite this supposedly being a big game, this started for Tottenham as slow as any other match has this season. At the half-hour mark, Spurs sprang into life as it took 10 minutes to sink in that Arsenal had scored. Arsenal had their tails up, but sadly, that was as aggressive as we got. And normally, when you cause pain and suffering to another creature, it riles them up and the adrenaline starts to flow. Tottenham didn't really happen, and they all go in at half time, and who comes out with the energy, with the bring it, with the heat? It was Arsenal. Lack of self-respect is going on there. You know, we listen to all these pissy little interviews with the press, and oh yeah, we're looking at Potter, you know, and the gaffer. They don't have it. They don't have it. There's something wrong with the culture at this club. And just to give you an indication, and this is purely down to concentration levels, this next one. Here are where we lost possession. Goodness me, there's a lot to take in there. But you can see from these graphs, this is just Spurs losing possession. And those yellow ones, right, that's where we lost possession, and it resulted on a shot on Hugo Lloris's goal. 7 times that happened. We lost the ball endlessly, absolutely disgraceful. But if we just focus on the really dangerous stuff, 7 times we lost possession and it resulted in a shot on a Spurs goal. Utterly, utterly hopeless. And just for contrast, once Arsenal did that, Arsenal lost possession, didn't lose it as much as we did, but they only had one occasion where they lost the ball and it resulted in a shot on their goal. So the idea of a whipping boy, right? This is what happens when people are confused and upset. And I'm not going to go into too much of a rabbit hole in broader society generally, but when things aren't going well, we say, well, I think it's that lot over there. We've got to watch them, you know, they're after our jobs, you know, that sort of thing. And I'm not suggesting there's any race or anything here, but Emerson Royal has been singled out, and I'm the only guy making this conversation, having this dialogue. It's not a narrative, it's the truth, okay? So let me start with this, because I love backing up everything I say with facts, opposed to, I like how tuna tastes. If you don't like tuna, you don't know what you're talking about. No, that's subjective thought there, okay? So let's look at the losses that Spurs had. Get the numbers up there for you. And we'll see that Christian Romero, absolute howler of a game, gave the ball away, lost possession 14 times. Emerson Royal, not good, 11, but behind him. Forget the other two because they're too far up the pitch, and that happens a lot in their line of work. But if you're going to have hate for Emerson Royal, you've got to save some from Romero. And just on the business with Emerson, I'm going to keep repeating this because I don't think it's getting through to some of you. I know you're looking for somebody to blame, but you know what I'm going to say? You got to look further up the food chain. It's not his fault because he's not actually that good. And I don't think he's not responsible. He is not the person that sold us the lemon. He's not the person that bought the lemon. He's an innocent in this. That's how I see him. Barcelona paid Real Betis in the region of about £7 million for him. Now, if you put that into context, because you're an intelligent audience, put that into context. You go out with £7 million in your pocket, okay? Just, I'm talking metaphorically here. You go out and you bring me a right wing back that's ready to go, Premier League standard, starting 11 player for a side with a £1 billion stadium, who plays Champions League football and has aspirations to be right up there, and you won't be able to do it. You get the occasional guy who's not having a bad season for about £7 million, but we paid 3 times what he's truly worth, and now that's his fault. Oh, if I see Emerson start again, and I'm going to come back to the way we need to think about what Conte's doing and what's actually happening at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. So we look at Emerson Royal, and I'm not saying we give him a pass, we ignore him, but we have to weigh things up with a bit of perspective. And this brings me neatly along to another whipping boy of late, Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. And I challenged a guy who, because you have no genuine control over your social media feed. And the guy came up, you rubbish, throw him in a bin, and all this. And I said, for once I was trying to be nice. I just said, could you give us like 2 or 3 bullet points? Because I'm in the middle of composing a piece where I think I can prove, again, it's not his fault. And that I don't think he's a terrible footballer. And all I got back was this, I know what I saw with my own eyes, I don't need none of your statistics. And with those people, that voice, that's a lot like, the voice that tells you, you're not from around here, are you? There's a kind of closed-mindedness there. There's an unwillingness to think, an unwillingness to have a discussion about things. So I went through Højbjerg's numbers, because that's what you do. You walk away from something with a subjective opinion. That's fine. I get that. You're welcome to it. But don't take your subjective opinion, roll it up and beat me over the head with it, because I'm not interested. I'm really interested in facts. Are people going through him like a knife through butter? No. Made 8 interceptions and recovered the ball on 12 occasions. Not only extremely good work, but better than his average Premier League return in those disciplines. He also made the third most amount of recoveries from all the players on the park, be they Arsenal or Tottenham. And it was one of the few categories where a Tottenham name actually popped up in the listings. Højbjerg was also the 2nd most successful tackler out of everybody on the pitch, again for both sides. So he's kind of displayed himself in a favourable light. But if there are no danger areas in terms of these contributions that we can measure, apart from a guy sat there at home or was sat there in the ground going, this is rubbish, I think it's his fault, he's rubbish, what's the deal? Why is his name coming up? Well, he's in the middle of the park, and that's something that we've been discussing, and I think we're going to carry on discussing until Conte goes. Conte could play a 2, a 3, or even a 4 in the middle of the park, and all he might achieve is a greater effectiveness in breaking up play, if he's lucky, because he needs to employ a different kind of player. It's not Højbjerg's fault that he doesn't have a creative midfielder around him. He doesn't have, incidentally, a designated defensive midfielder around him. And if you look at when Højbjerg was eventually taken off, it was Oliver Skipp who replaced him, who's another holding midfielder. He doesn't have any defensive midfielders around him. Basuma, not really a defensive midfielder. He's more of a sort of, and this is why it really makes me nervous when these lesser publications, High Reach PLC, how are you? They come out with this business, oh yeah, Spurs are interested in versatile. I don't really like versatility. I like people who are experts in one specific thing. You go and see the doctor, you're not sure what it is, you want to see a specialist. You don't want to see somebody who's quite versatile. Oh, so you know as much about this thing as you know about ingrown toenails. That's really refreshing. Spurs need to buy the right players, and you know where I'm heading with this. They have no control. Conte, Paratici, none of them. Your mum, my mum, nobody has any control. And that's why the squad is packed full of deadbeats. And you say to me, oh, what do you mean deadbeats as well? Class this, and we spent 150, but we didn't spend 150 million. The press manipulated you, they played you, they read what we read. The club never said they were going to spend specifically 150 million on players. It was money they were releasing in tranches, which is financial speak for in bits and pieces as it was needed. And they didn't spend it. £119 million worth of Duff players went out on loan, and you know who they are: Tongi Dombele, Lo Celso, blah blah blah, Winks, all these guys went out on loan. They're all going to be coming back, and we actually spent about 118 million, and that included a player who wasn't new to us. That included a player who had already started and was kind of in. He was on loan, there was a deal in the drawer, whatever it was, but it wasn't a bang, let's go out and buy somebody. The recurring problem with Conte's selections has been the reliance on the wing-backs, which have been largely substandard. You'll remember Sergio Reguilon, which so many of you thought was a great player. Absolute junk in the final analysis. That's why he's not here anymore, by the way. That's not my opinion. That's why he's not here anymore. If he was good, he'd still be here. We're a big operation with a ton of money. He didn't make the grade. So Spurs coach, whoever it's going to be, and I'll come on to that, have this Hobson's choice in the middle of the park where Daniel Levy, hello, is that the sound of a penny dropping? Where Daniel Levy has only supplied the coaches with a variation on the theme. Any of you that are looking at Skip, Bissouma, Bentancur, Pierre Højbjerg and seeing anything more dynamic than a holding midfielder, I'm afraid that's just subjective opinion based upon how you feel while you're watching the game. I don't know how to express it in simpler language, but what you're seeing, how you're feeling, doesn't match up with reality. None of these guys are creative midfielders. And if you don't have wing-backs that are functioning, and functioning to a significantly high standard, what do you have? I haven't done my badges. No, really, I haven't. But ponder this, okay? You've got the last three coaches of this club, this enormous club that turns over huge money, okay? Invests huge money. This isn't the thing. I'm not saying, oh, we don't spend. We do, but we have a predilection for buying rubbish or buying stuff that just doesn't work for us. I mean, why in the name... I mean, you know the list of players who've come to Spurs, not performed, and then have gone elsewhere. Okay, so it's not like we just wandering around drunk like some pissed up lottery winner. It's just that the dysfunctional side of the business is, and has always been under Daniel Levy, has been allowing somebody to kind of organically build a football team. And it just doesn't happen, and that's why it's a mess. And you don't have a coherent argument against that, by the way, because it's not just everything I say, but it's everything the club has done in the last 20 plus years. So we've got three coaches, the last three coaches, Conte, Mourinho and Nuno, God bless him. Now they all came along and they've done their badges. They've all come along and they've all played this low block or bus passing setup where you have your attacking players quite deep back because of the way you're set up. I remind you of the jumbo jet picture thing earlier. Maybe, just maybe, they're seeing the same thing that the more far-sighted amongst us have been seeing for a good while now, under all of these managers, that there's nobody in the middle of the park. So pinging the ball into deep-lying attackers' paths makes sense. It's not pretty, but the logic is difficult to challenge. So where do we go from here? Well, I'm a big fan of Venn diagrams. You'd never know it to look at me. But you've got the mob saying, in Conte we trust. And I have to say, you guys do my head in, because that's one of those phrases. It's like, be careful what you wish for. It's a blocking move. It's a manipulation. It's an abuse of language to prevent people from having free thought or discussion. It means they don't want to talk about it. You're not qualified to engage with me on this subject. And they all talk the same way. You can spot them a mile off on any forum or any comments box. Oh yeah, in Conte we trust. I think he knows slightly more than you. Well, I'd be interested to know how many of you religious bigots who are trusting in Conte, or the last guy, the guy before him, or the guy before him, how many of you are sat there and saying, why doesn't he bring on Spence? What's wrong with Bissouma? Why did we buy them? Guys, the penny has to drop. The idea that Conte and Paratici have any sort of control is just wishful. Perisic, yeah, 100% Conte buy. Don't believe he doesn't want a 33-year-old on the wages that he's on. He's not Gareth Bale. There's no Hollywood vibe about that. And Lenglet, another player who just is immensely proficient. But again, a loan deal, not really a spring chicken. It's not a punt. And until the punts stop, you guys are going to still be confused. In Conte we trust. What the hell is he playing at? Where's Jed Spence? That's it for now. Good luck. Keep it Tottenham.